So today we're going to dig into a government propaganda campaign that was so weird, so out there, that its own supporters gave it the nickname Operation Epstein Distraction. Yeah, you heard that right. We're going to break down how the White House used rap music, Hollywood movies, and video game graphics to sell a war with Iran, and why the whole thing blew up in their face.
Okay, so picture this. You're watching an official video from the White House about a serious military conflict. You're expecting, I don't know, a somber, maybe a patriotic score, right? Well, instead, you get hit with this high-energy, thumping rap and EDM soundtrack that sounds like it belongs in a nightclub. Right away, that's your first clue that something is very different about this campaign?
And it wasn't just the music. No, these official videos were literally spliced together with clips from some of the biggest Hollywood blockbusters. I'm talking epic battle scenes from historical dramas and crazy futuristic superhero fights, all mixed in to promote a very real, very modern war.
And then to complete this bizarre mix, the videos are just layered with graphics and aesthetics pulled straight out of first-person shooter games. We're talking heads-up displays, with the targeting reticles, on-screen pop-ups when a target gets hit, and even, get this, scoring systems.
So, what happens when you throw all of that into a blender? You get this incredibly unconventional, kind of tasteless online campaign to get people excited about a war. It's this frantic mashup of pop culture and actual violence, and as we're about to see, it was all designed for a very, very specific type of person.
Let's get specific, because this is where it gets really wild. You'd see a clip from Gladiator or Braveheart. Then it cuts to what looks exactly like a player in Call of Duty calling in an airstrike. And when a real Iranian target is hit by a real US bomb, a video game graphic flashes on screen, plus 100 points. In another one, a US torpedo hits a warship and the screen just fills with that infamous wasted message from Grand Theft Auto. It's this manic and honestly pretty disturbing mix of make-believe and reality.
Which, brings us to the big question here. This style is obviously not for everyone. It's loud, it's aggressive, it's a lot. So if this isn't for the general public, then who on earth was this kind of war propaganda actually supposed to appeal to?
And the answer, at least according to the source material, is that it wasn't for the general public, not at all. The entire strategy was built around hitting a really small niche audience. And when you look at the polling from back then, you kind of start to see why.
Here's the deal. At the time, public approval for how the administration was handling the situation with Iran was just 36%. 36! With numbers that low, trying to convince the entire country would have been a huge uphill battle, so it seems like they decided to not even bother.
And this is the key. The whole point of this campaign wasn't to win over new fans. It was actually about managing a problem they had within their own base. The strategy was to calm down a small but pretty vocal group of their own supporters who were really skeptical about the very war they were trying to promote.
And that target was what's been called the MAGA New Right. The source describes them as a group that's very online, mostly male, and often on the younger side. And the most important thing to know about them, they are deeply skeptical of getting into foreign wars, especially after the conflicts in the George W. Bush years. This is the audience those video game and movie mashups were for.
Now, this approach didn't just come out of nowhere. It's actually part of a much bigger communication style that's popular with this online crowd, a style that some have called macho propaganda.
The White House was pretty much tapping into a subculture that was already there. These short, low-budget, super high-energy hype videos were already a big thing on the online right. They have this retro-futuristic, adrenaline-junkie vibe, all about a defiant, roaring America. By using this style, the administration was trying to speak a language that was already familiar to their target audience. And this whole style had a champion right inside the administration, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. He was basically the living embodiment of this aggressively macho attitude. He was famous for railing against political correctness and bragging about U.S. military power. Before he got the job, he was lobbying to get pardons for soldiers accused of war crimes, and even has Christian nationalist tattoos, like the old Crusade slogan Deus Vult, which means God wills it. He was the poster boy for this entire aesthetic.
So, okay, the administration picked its target, they tailored the message with an aesthetic they knew that target liked. It was a very specific plan for a very specific problem. The big question is, did any of it actually work?
The answer, and maybe this is surprising, is that it failed. And not just failed, it actually created a huge backlash from the very same America First supporters it was supposed to get fired up. Yeah, the reaction from that very online, very male audience was not good. They weren't energized, they were cynical. They got online and just
openly mocked the videos, calling them clumsy and bloodthirsty. It was a huge, blinking sign that this campaign was totally missing the mark.
And this brings us back to the title of our explainer. One of the nicknames that started trending among these online supporters for the war with Iran was Operation Epstein Distraction. Think about how incredibly cynical that is. It suggests the entire war was just a big show to distract everyone from others' scandals.
And this quote from a former staffer at the Heritage Foundation just nails the feeling perfectly. The hype edits are stupid. We want mass deportations, the legislative agenda you campaigned on, and no more wars. This just shows a complete rejection of the whole campaign, and more than that, a deep sense of betrayal. They felt the administration had totally abandoned its America First promise to stay out of foreign wars.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big takeaway. This whole episode is a fascinating look at the limits of propaganda. It shows that even when a government tries to speak the language of its own supporters, you can't just paper over deep ideological disagreements with flashy videos and movie clips. In the end, this unconventional campaign ended up revealing a huge disconnect, not just with the American public, but with the very people the administration thought it understood the best.